This program is brought to you by the Media Liberty Alliance Foundation in cooperation with OBBM Network TV, bringing citizen-led, creative local media to the forefront of local communities to foster a greater understanding of constitutional liberty and appreciation of what makes us truly free, starting with you and me.
The Zach Ratliff Show is brought to you by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Texas, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. The Zach Ratliff Show is sponsored by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Exceed Health Clinic, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. Hello and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. This is Josh Bray. What's up, man? How are you?
I appreciate you having me back.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're coming off just had a political event over at the Texarkana Board of Realtors with that you had the chance to speak at, and Chris Spencer had the chance to speak at. And man, I was glad for the turnout, but I appreciate you making time to be all the way down here on a Thursday morning at, I think you got there about 8:30. So.
Absolutely. It was a great opportunity to get in front of a bunch of people and good questions, good dialogue, and just a good event.
Right. You can pull that towards you a little bit if it's more comfortable. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Yeah, it was, and I enjoyed our talk so much last time. This race is really heating up. Starting to see a little bit of mud getting slung. I'm never a fan of that. I think you would know this as any candidate that comes in here knows. I'm just going to let you say your piece. It's not. I don't like mudslinging. Some people choose to do it, some people don't. But I just like to hear what you guys, where you are. When you talk to somebody for an hour or for 30 minutes or whatever, enough times you can get a feel for them. So that's why I just wanted to have you back on here and just kind of open this thing back up. Really.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, campaigns bring out the best and the worst in people and in groups, and it's unfortunate early on, I was cast to be a liberal, cast to be a rhino, literally 5 minutes after I put my name in the hat to run for this office. And, it just doesn't feel right. But I think it's a good opportunity to clear it up. And so, if you go back and even in their own mailer that they put out, it was a 2008 election.
And I think they can see it on camera. I know it's in different. Yeah.
So here's the piece that we're talking about, and it's a picture with myself and Hillary Clinton. And the idea, right, is that because I voted in a 2008 contested sheriff's race, when in East Texas back in that time frame, particularly at the local level, a lot of those elections were on the Democratic ticket.
Well. As we were talking off camera, we have a county commissioner here in Bowie County that still runs as a Democrat. Good guy, does a good job at what he does. And I have family members that vote for him. I don't live there, or I probably would too, honestly. But it just, that's what he's always been. He just didn't make the switch when everybody else did, right?
Well, and there's a lot of people that, would have identified 20 years ago as Democrats that are clearly not today.
Oh, my grandparents.
I will tell you, I never identified as
right.
that. But at the same time, the local sheriff's race matters.
Yeah.
And that particular election was actually decided by less than 200 votes.
So it really mattered.
When you think about the importance of your vote and you think about what levels it matters most, the smaller the election, the more your vote matters.
Yeah.
And so in that particular election, yes, I voted in a local sheriff's election, and because local sheriffs matter. And so that, but again, to twist that into all the different things that are on the mailer from Hillary Clinton to Chuck Schumer and all the rest of these people that are listing, that's just deceptive and manipulative. And
when I got that in my mail, my daughter's 10, so she brings the mail in because that's a big deal, And
right.
She brought the mail in, and she goes, she obviously she didn't know who Hillary Clinton is, and I hadn't seen it, and she goes, do you know who either one of those people are? And I see Hillary Clinton, I'm like, no, and I look away, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Right.
And so I probably honestly would have never even looked at it if, because I do have the luxury of having a lot of you guys on my phone where I can just text you a question if I want to.
Right.
But I was like, oh, okay. I see
Well,
where we are.
and I appreciate the opportunity today to get to speak to it because while you do have my number, there's 200,000 people in the district that may not have my number,
Right.
and so they don't have that direct access. So to be able to clear up the record, to say, no, I'm not a liberal. No, I'm not a rhino. Yes, I'm going to go vote conservative values in the Texas House, I think is important to get out to the people.
And that's my main concern, Josh. I think I told you this last time. I go on principles. Number one, I'm a Christian. Jesus is the way. After that, I'm a dad.
Right.
After that, I'm a son. I want to make my mom proud. I want to make my dad proud. After that, we can start talking politics, right? So, which inevitably leads me to being conservative. I'm big on my faith.
You bet.
And everybody doesn't have to agree with me. They don't have to have my faith, but they have to let me have my faith.
Right.
And you can do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't take away from my faith.
Right.
And I'm big on my family. And then, so that's why I'm a conservative. And in talking to you, I hate to speak for you, but some of these principles seem to be shared.
Well, and it's interesting you say it that way because a guy asked me the other day, and I've started using this in all my closings. Why should I vote for you?
Oh, yeah.
And that number one issue is because I'm a Christian and I'm going to vote accordingly. Well, that covers. We don't now we can not avoid, but we don't have to talk about what my position is on abortion,
Right.
Because you already know my position as a Christian. I'm pro-life.
Yeah.
And then we get past that. Then we can talk about being a businessman and the fact that look, the state budget is huge.
Right.
We've got to make sure that we stretch every dollar that we can and get the best use of it that we have the opportunity to, just like you would in your own business.
Right.
And then when you get into the service and you look at the board work that I've done that we talked about last time, whether it's the junior college board or the hospital board, me and the chairman of that board or the chairman of the economic development board, in our region, it's about educating our kids and having employment and having rural health care. And so you just want to make sure that people don't read the mail because it's deceptive.
Well, and look, I'm going to have Chris on here next week at some point and let him speak to that and because that's who I am and that's what I do. But, it's more about, okay, this happens and all that, but who you are and what you want to. If you're telling me, Zach, I'm going to come in and I'm going to be conservative, I'm going to fight for conservative values, good. And if we don't agree on those at times, then I'll probably know that. But so as we go, there's a couple things I think we talked about this morning in our meeting that I'd like to, and we kind of covered some last time was property taxes, which is big, and then water, which is a huge deal, and then even in the respect of here in Bowie County, they're building out. There's plans for up to 10 data centers here. That's just going to suck our water way away. And so this is a concern. And then, like you said, Marvin Nichols, who we all know people that have, property that borders Marvin Nichols. One, that's a property owner thing. Number two, all that water so they steal our land. And let's just call it what it is, in my view. Steal our land and then give all our water to Dallas when Dallas doesn't dredge their recreation lakes. They don't pump out of their recreation lake. There's plenty of water in Dallas that they could use, but they're too worried about what their citizens are doing and instead of what they're drinking.
Zach, before we go there, I want to bring one more thing up because it's going to be talked about when Chris comes on.
Oh, sure.
I
wasn't trying to cut you off.
No, you're good. There's going to be a comment made that these mailers are coming from people that he has no control over.
Oh, right. Like some kind of a PAC or something like that.
So these PACs have
Political Action Committee.
Correct. Have their own desires. And their desires are to control people in the Texas House.
Uh-huh.
And so when you look at where these mailers are coming from, this particular one we looked at earlier today is Texans United for a Conservative Majority.
Here, I'm gonna grok that while you're talking about it because I've never heard of them.
And I would encourage you to look at every single one of these mailers, type in who they're paid for by, and then see what you can find out about them. Texans United for a Conservative Majority sounds like a really great name. Texans for Stronger Borders or something like that sounds like a really great name. All these organizations are special interest group that have special desires that aren't the same necessarily desires of District 1.
Right.
And so when you start getting these mailers, you have to ask yourself, why are they so interested in this race? I had one guy that reached out to me the other day, said he had gotten 5 mailers from people and groups that are special interests supporting my opponent or running me down, however you want to say it, either way. The question you got to ask yourself is that good for District 1? And so I'll just tell you, my heart is not to go and serve people from West Texas. Mm-hmm. It's not to serve people from the Metroplex, and it's not to serve people in Austin.
Yeah.
My heart is to serve the hardworking people of Northeast Texas. And I'll just tell you, I'm not for sale. And you have to ask yourself who's beholden to who.
Right. Let's see. I'm just reading it because before, I'd never heard of it before that, and I haven't looked it up. It says it was formed in 2023. There's where its funding comes from. Has 3.2 million on hand. Golly, that's a war chest, isn't it?
Yeah. So you ask
Current
yourself.
campaign treasurer Justin Maloney, which I don't know who that is, but if anybody's interested, they can go look him up, and they probably know a lot more about it.
Well, and the reason you really have to really dive deep into this is, why are these not being disclosed on our own personal campaign finance reports? I mean, first of all, legislatively, I think that's a problem.
Right.
We should, if someone's willing to send mailers out on our behalf, we should have to disclose who those people are and what those affiliations are.
Oh, you just said this. I'm sorry to cut you off. You said you're not serving West Texas, and that major initial funding came from West Texas oil billionaires Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks. So there you go. So
there you
I feel like you probably knew that, and we're just letting me get to it, and that's okay. I appreciate the lead.
Well, you finished it off.
Yeah. Well, and that's good to know, because you want to know why you're seeing. And I've threatened, and have a couple times in the past election. Every time I would get one of these text messages, I would turn around. I have the luxury of having a lot of phone numbers. I would copy that and send it to their personal phone.
Interesting.
And they're like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "Because I'm tired of getting them."
well, and I don't get to ask questions. You get to ask questions, but I'm going to ask you, why would 2 West Texas billionaires have such interest in House District 1?
Man, that I think that's a valid question. I don't know. You tell me what you think, and then we'll go from there.
A desire to have control of the Texas House.
Right.
And so then you have to ask yourself, past that, what's the issues that they want to control?
Mm-hmm.
If it's conservative policy, then you're attacking a Republican who's never voted on a policy.
Right. Well, let me steer it this way, because Representative Van Dever came on my show a few times, and I think I told you last time, there are a couple things where I was like, "Hey, I don't agree with you on this." And to Gary Van Dever's credit, he would say, "No, that's fine. You don't have to. I'm going to do it, and then I'll come back and answer it for it." And he was man enough to come back and answer for it. And so I have the utmost respect for him, even though I didn't agree on some of his votes. I can look past a lot of those things, right? I mean, as we should be able to, because if I felt that strongly about it, I'd run for it myself, right? Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I think is important to know is, when a representative votes on an issue, there's a lot of things tied to that.
And other votes coming, right?
And so you have no idea, other than the soundbite that's being reported, what he was truly voting for or against. The example that was used in the last election was Gary Van Dever's not for teacher pay raises.
Right.
Well, Gary Van Dever was for teacher pay raises, but voted against an issue that they had bundled with teacher pay raises that he didn't agree to.
Right.
But then the mailer comes out that he didn't agree to teacher pay raises. And so a lot of times these issues get twisted in a negative manner.
Which is a perfect lead in. So one of my good friends who was at the meeting we were just at said, "Hey, I really wish I'd have asked this question. Can you ask it for me?" And she's well-spoken and a lot more intelligent than I am. So I said, "Will you just text that to me?" Right. and then I'll read it. My talent is reading and talking. Like other than that, get me out of it. She says, "With the voucher system in place for private schools, what protection can you provide for public schools who have now been undercut by billions? We are a community dependent on public schools." Now, just so everybody knows, her mom was a teacher. She's a big education person. I don't, so that's.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure you've heard the last legislative session, they passed $1 billion in the voucher bill.
Right.
And so that's been done. It's the law of the land. As a legislator, we got to make sure that money, that taxpayer money, is used effectively, and that there's accountability to that money.
Right.
The thing that the next legislative group is going to have to look at is if it's oversubscribed.
Right.
I think I think that most of the world would probably assume that it will be oversubscribed and there will be requests for more capital.
What do you mean by oversubscribed for those?
So that $1 billion at 10,000 a student, just roughly, and that doesn't account for special higher paid students or
which could be your SPED or your 504 kids or whatever, however you want to call it. Yes.
Correct. So we're just going to use an average and say that's 100,000 students. Should we have demand for 150 or 200 and then the request come back?
Right.
So for the underfunded amount of that money.
Gotcha.
What's next? And so the challenge is while there's districts in the Metroplex that have really, really probably woke agendas and liberal issues where people are running from public ed, I think we need to step in and fix public ed, not run from the issue and say, y'all just keep teaching your woke agendas.
Right.
We're not going to have that, so that we can protect our inner city kids and our other unfortunate kids. Because truth of the matter is, the voucher in the metropolitan cities is probably not going to cover the full tuition.
Right.
So,
well, not to the private school that you want to go to.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so the other concern in our particular region is the last I heard, K through 12. I don't know that we had a school that was even accepting vouchers.
Right.
So when you look at the $1 billion that was sent here, if you allocate that by the 150 state reps, just as a way to divide it, we lost out on $6 or $7 million. Okay. Now, while there's obviously conversations that's not coming from the public school funding,
it's coming from somewhere, though.
It was $1 billion that got used.
Yeah.
And so, you're not. I mean, the voucher program is here. We've got to make sure in East Texas that our kids get the proper funding that they need, and that's the battle.
Well, and one thing you said this morning that I really liked, and I think I can tie it to this, so I'm going to try to do that. But it was in relation to property tax. You got a question about, what about the spending and this, and you're like, hey, I'm for local control. I'm for local control when it comes to the schools too. So fixing education, in my mind, and I'm not speaking for you, but in my mind, fixing that local education is, I think we need to have, and this isn't even about funding. This is about, we need to believe in our teachers and our school leadership that we vote into place with our school boards, and we need to trust them to hire the right superintendent who should then make the decisions. I mean, that's how it works, right? And so if we believe in our school board, and I think we should empower our local school boards so that if we do have an issue with a high school or something making low grades, or a middle school making low on the state assessment, then okay, and in my mind, once again, I'm just an average guy, but in my mind, okay, we've got to do something about these standardized state tests that everybody's teaching to. And I know this kind of gets in the weeds on that, but if we could give our local teachers who are with our kids, who deal with it every day, and that administration more freedom, I feel like that's only a win, but I could be way off. I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's certain basic things that we need to have an expectation that our kids leaving school are educated with. I mean, you should be able to add and subtract. You should be able to read. You should be able to communicate.
Which a lot of times it isn't happening. And so, I'm not just talking about this area. I'm just talking about statewide.
But on the other end of it, there's higher level classes that kids that are never destined to go to college by their own choice or their own physical limitations. And so if they're electing a different path, let's give them a path to be successful in their careers.
Right.
For one kid, that could be welding. For another, that could be plumbing or HVAC. And so we need to make sure that we're matching curriculum for employment. And I think we've gotten into a habit of trying to make every round peg fit in a round hole.
Yeah.
And people just aren't that. And so,
I know a guy that it was obvious. I don't know why he even had to go past 10th grade.
Right.
He was never. And now, as an adult, this person is successful, has a family, makes good money, has a good job, has other experience. I don't want to tell too much of experience, so I don't give away who I'm talking about. But everybody knew this person wasn't going past 10th grade, but he has done awesome things,
right,
in a few different realms, and could have done that 2 years earlier, honestly.
Well, and let's face it, the vocational trades compensation's catching up because people want to make sure that they have the things that they need. We want to turn our water on. We want to turn our power on. So we talked about the guys that are work on the power line.
Yeah.
Those guys are well compensated. And
sure.
The thing that I would tell you, just in general, I'm not looking for Washington to be in Austin, and I'm not looking for Austin to be in Texarkana.
Right.
And so what curriculum you need at Texarkana College looks far different potentially than the curriculum that's needed at Grayson County College on the other side of my district.
Right.
And the reason I use them is because they've been fortunate to have a really, really big chip manufacturer show up in their community, billions of dollars investment. They need employees to build those chips.
Right.
So they've got to be supported by the local community college as well as the four-year college with the right engineers and developers to make those products. On the other end of it, here in Texarkana, we may need specific megatronics or certain mechanical to support Red River Army Depot or one of the paper mills. Those decisions have to be made locally because the curriculum needs to match employment.
Right. I agreed. Right. I have no disagreement there. Let me ask you this: going into some of your experience as a business owner, a successful business owner, how? And I don't know if you can verbalize it, but you probably can. I don't know that I could verbalize it. How do you take that experience and? Obviously, you have to know what budgets are. You have to know line items. You have experience in. I don't know how many families were represented through your company that worked for you, but it was a few. And so you were not only responsible for you and your family, but everybody under you.
You bet.
So with that experience, now as a Texas, if you win as a Texas representative, you will still be watching a budget and line items for all the families in District 1 represented. Can you parlay that experience into, question make sense?
Yeah, so several things there. I mean, we had 150 employees. That's a real honor to lead them.
Yeah.
And it's a real burden to recognize that their paycheck's dependent on you.
Right.
And your paycheck is dependent on them.
Absolutely.
So several things going on there. The first one, you've got to know how to get along with people.
Yeah.
And whether you run the company or you drive the truck or whether you ride on the back of the truck, everyone's got to be valued and appreciated and understand that they're a critical part of the team.
Right.
And so when you go to Austin and represent this district, you're going to have to go and work with everybody. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at even passing the budget as an example, you're going to have to vote with both parties. You're going to have to work to negotiate deals that might not be as good for East Texas that are better for the Metroplex. And on the other end of it, we've got to fight as a rural district. There's only, I think I mentioned last time, there's only 30 out of 150 reps that are considered rural representatives.
Right. If you win, you're going to be one of them.
You've got to go create some relationships and negotiate deals that are beneficial to our district.
Well, and I think that you alluded to that earlier when I talked about Gary Van Dever making some votes, because that's the deal, right? You can't just get it your way 100% of the time, and it's not going to work. And so you have to go to somebody, maybe a Democrat, maybe a less conservative Republican, say, hey, if you'll support me on here, tell me what you've got coming up. Maybe I can get behind that. And that's not selling your values down the river. That's saying that's representative government. Working.
That's business.
Yeah, that's business. That's right.
You look at the cities that we serviced when I had my sanitation company. We offered street sweeping. We provided scholarships in their communities. We tore houses down. We had to differentiate ourselves. Why would they do business with me? And when you go to Austin, you're going to have to differentiate yourself in a manner that allows you to negotiate deals because you can work with someone.
Right. Well, even in the sanitation business, you're buying fuel, so you're paying fuel tax. You've got equipment that you're paying tax on. I mean, there's a lot more of community support that, I mean, I know that's all good, but the tax load that a business or a business owning family has is never seen by the public for it's immense.
If you really went through that whole tax chart, it'd scare you to death.
Yeah, absolutely.
You start with paying property tax on your location where those trucks leave from. You pay property tax on the trucks themselves, the containers themselves. You or your customer pays sales tax on the services rendered. Then you turn
It comes out of your bank account.
Then you turn around and pay Texas a franchise tax. And then you turn around and pay an income tax.
Right.
And then if you're successful enough and you're fortunate enough, when you die, your family pays an inheritance tax.
55%.
And so there are I don't know how many taxes that just was, but and that doesn't even include the fuel tax or the heavy use taxes. I mean, there's taxes everywhere.
You know, and this doesn't really have anything to do with, well, it does have a lot to do with state level, but total, if you're in the top income bracket, by the time you pay all of that, plus your driver's license, plus, like I said, your fuel tax, plus your truck registration, plus everything else, you're at 60 cents to every dollar you make goes back in taxes. So yeah, it's great to own a business. Yeah, it's great to do that thing, but you are giving a lot to the community through that.
Well, and I think that translates back to what we talked about this morning with the realtors. You know, those that own a ton of property appreciate the desire to work toward an elimination of property tax. And I fall into that category.
Right.
The challenge is back to what we talked about on the first episode was how do we do that meaningfully? How do we do that responsibly without jeopardizing our educational system and our city and county government?
Well, and you know, on that point, I think I had the numbers last time you were here. I want to say it was 27% of the education budget came from property taxes. So, you know, you look at it and is 27% of your budget big? Well, it doesn't sound like it is until you take that away from your daily budget to run your family through.
Well, and when you look at just the funding model as a whole, I would tell you the more diverse your funding model is, the less risky it is. When you become fully reliant on the state to send every penny to you and you have no ability to take care of your obligations, that's vulnerable.
Well, it's just like your investments. Do you take everything and pour it into, whatever stock you want to do, ABC stock, and that's the only thing I'm putting in? No, because if it falls, it's a problem.
That's right.
There's one thing you said this morning that I want to bring up because I feel, So let's talk about the Paris College. Because in this you talked about a property tax that happened on there. Can you kind of walk through that for me?
Yeah. So really proud of the service that we've the opportunity to serve and work with the junior college on that board. And as a board member, every year, right, the budget's brought to you,
right,
and you review it and you look at it and you figure out what you have to do to make things work,
right.
And let's face it, we have been faced with inflation in this country like the last 5 years since we've, and I say 5, it's really probably been maybe 8.
Yeah, it's been bad
since we've really printed all the money. And so as you see that inflation, you have to balance budgets. You can't live off of deficits forever. You wouldn't do that in your personal life.
They wouldn't let you.
You can't do that in business. And so, our tax at the junior college is about probably 50-60% below the state average.
Okay.
So we're already doing the right thing.
Right. Minding the little things.
Running the business really well.
Yeah.
And so, I got attacked online for you're saying you're not for more tax, but you're voting on a tax increase.
Okay, so I didn't know that attack was out there. That's why I was having trouble framing it. I didn't know that attack was out. Okay, so that's where I wanted to go, but I was just like I said at the beginning, I'm trying not to box anybody in here on anything. Yeah,
when you think about being attacked for raising a tax, by the way, we actually cut the tax rate. It was the appraised value of the properties that had gone up that led to an increase to the consumer. Clearly, as a college board member, I have nothing to do with the appraised values. And so it's deceptive, though, when you get attacked, when you're financially doing the right thing to begin with. And I'm going to get this a little bit wrong, but it's essentially we're paying about 0.06 and the state average is about 0.16. So
0.06 of.
So we're almost a third, not quite. Obviously, a third would be 18 on the state level. But think about how much cheaper that already is. And so the other side of it is, from a tuition standpoint, our tuition is considerably below the community college state average. So not only are we providing
more with less,
we're doing more with less. And so it's just a clear up, if you want to call it that. And so at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit on a board and live on a deficit.
Right.
I believe in balancing the budgets, and I believe in making sure that we're doing the right thing with the taxpayers' money. But don't punish me for doing the right thing over the last decade, and some of which I inherited, and some of which was when I came on the board, and through stewardship, we've done the right thing and we've kept the rate down.
Man, I like that you say stewardship. And my role that I have in a couple organizations is I sort of always say, hey, we're stewards. This isn't our money.
Right.
We're stewards of this money. We're supposed to take this money. We can grow this money. We can help this organization with it, but we have to understand that people work hard for this money. So stewardship, I think, is the exact word for it.
Well, and if you're like me, I spend my own money more freely than I spend yours.
Which is not the norm. You know, you're on boards. Once a group of people start dealing with other people's money, it's hard to keep them reeled in sometimes. Like, hey.
Well, there's ultimate accountability to how you're spending that money.
That's right.
And so when I have to go out on the community and look at people in the face and say, do you really believe that that's a good use of those funds? I want the answer to be yes.
Right.
And so, all my life, I think stewardship is a great word, because whether you're stewarding, it's all the Lord's stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it's the college,
now
or the
you're talking
state,
about what I like.
or your own personal wealth.
Yeah.
What are you doing with it? And are we maximizing it to the benefit, quite frankly, of our kids and our grandkids? And that's ultimately my goal. I could go to the beach and live happily ever after.
Yeah.
I don't need this. But at the same time, I'll just be honest with you, I'm burdened. To much is given, much is expected. And this district's blessed me in a manner that I never would have dreamed that I could have been blessed. And so why would I not go give back to a district that's been so good to me and try to make this place better for your kids and your grandkids and my kids and my grandkids? Because if somebody hadn't done that before us,
right,
we wouldn't have the assets we have here.
No, that's exactly right. Okay, let me ask you a couple more questions and I'll let you get out of here. I know you're on the schedule. You hit on it with the appraisals on this. And in my world of real estate, the appraisals, man, are which for me, you're right, it cuts both ways, because if something goes high, I know I can sell it. Usually whatever the central appraisal district has, I can, I can get you more most of the time. And if I can't, you're in bad shape, right? But these appraisals keep going up. Is there any way, and maybe it's out there that I just don't know about it, because I don't know everything it turns out, but is there any way that we can rein that in? Like, hey, we're not but and here's the thing, we want our assets to appreciate. We have to go with inflation. So I understand that some of it's tied to that, but it just seems overwhelming at times.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something. I mean, clearly, if you think about a young family trying to buy a home,
right,
how do you budget for something that you can't predict?
Right.
And so if you know that your tax is predictable, then you budget for it. And so what we've got to do is rein in the out of control appraisals and make them more predictable. I think anybody could say, look, if it's growth plus inflation,
right,
or give me some kind of math to show that it's not just going to run out of control.
Right.
And so you've got that. The other piece of it we talked about this morning is we can move the exemptions up. We can move the age limit down. Mm-hmm. But I thought y'all's chief appraiser did a great job of saying, when you take from one or you give to one, you take from another.
Right.
The challenge is that we've got a lot of people that are on fixed income and that are at retirement age that are getting taxed out of their houses.
Right.
And so we as a state have got to step in and make sure that that's not going to happen. Yeah. And so I think you're going to see, and I agree with the Lieutenant Governor's plan to try to continue to increase the exemption and then try to bring the age limit down a little bit. But at the end of the day, we can't do that. And I keep saying this, but we can't do that at the expense of our kids,
right,
in our cities and counties. Because if you look at it, and I don't know about all your communities in this part of the world, but as you get back to the west of here, our cities and counties are struggling.
Right.
I mean, just to turn the water on and keep the sewer moving. So
I know here we don't have any westward growth for sewer services right now. Like there's there's a limit on what we can do. So we're tapped out right now.
Yeah, and when you look at, I was at a community just outside of town. I think they need a new wastewater plant. It's about $15 million. You know, how do you allocate that on a sewer bill?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to have some state funding.
Yeah.
Because the state has more resources than we do in East Texas.
Absolutely. Well, before we get out of here, how can people get a hold of you? How can they support you? What do you need from the people?
Josh Bray for Texas. Continue to follow us on Facebook. You'll probably be getting a lot of mail from my opponent and from me. Just do your due diligence on what you get in the mail. I mean, if you see paid for by, go do your diligence. Find out who that's paid for by. Ask yourself, what's their interest in our district? I will tell you from a campaign finance report, we've raised a lot of money, and the lion's share of it has been raised right here in District 1 by people that are concerned that our vote is getting bought from outside the district.
Right.
What I'm telling people, and I told them at a debate last night, was East Texas isn't for sale to outside interest.
Hey, there it is.
There it is.
Josh, I appreciate you coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today, and we'll be back and do it again tomorrow.